Welcome to Smashing Through Walls with Carla McGee. Whether you were just pulling up a seat to the table, breaking a glass ceiling, or smashing through walls, grab your favorite mug and join us on the first and third Friday at 11 o'clock for candid conversations with industry experts and decision makers as we navigate and explore all the things related to real estate and community.
Hi, this is Smashing Through Walls with Carla McGee, where we don't want to just break the ceiling, we want to smash through the walls. Today, I am super excited to have the first episode of my very first podcast. We are launching today. This is not an April Fool's joke. And I am having Erin Dutcher and Audra Travis with the MHG Commercial team. And we are super excited to tell you about all the things commercial real estate and just have a really good time. So welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your support and for coming. You guys have no idea what this means to me.
Well, I had no choice in the matter because you're very commanding.
I am.
And said that I had to be here or bad things were going to happen to me.
By 9 o'clock.
And so,
Right.
Which you know was hard for me at 9 o'clock.
I'm glad to see you up and dressed. I'm impressed with both. I prefer the word bossy over demanding.
That is perfect for you.
That's like my theme song. They wouldn't let me pick it because it has swear words in it, but it's fine.
She's bossy.
That's bossy.
See, I can't even say it right. I'm way too cowboy for that.
So good morning. I'm so happy to have you here, and I'm so excited to talk about like a variety of things. And so I want to kind of launch with what MHG Commercial is, right? Because I feel like I know what it is, and I want to tell our audience, and I'll kind of go over briefly what I think it is, and then we'll let Erin kind of explain his vision of it too.
Perfect.
Since it's his team and not mine. I'm just a lowly little piece of it.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
We're all just a little piece of it.
Just a little
Makes
piece
the
of
whole.
puzzle, whatever.
That's right. So I feel like we specialize in kind of what I call like the little guy, right? They're like the smaller businesses, smaller investors, maybe newer. They don't necessarily understand how commercial investing works all the time and can be put off or intimidated perhaps by some of your big, huge conglomerate commercial brokers, and they don't know who to call. So that's why we have the setup of meeting with residential agents and kind of taking it over from there.
I'd say that's just about perfect. I think that when that came to fruition for me, it was 7 years ago, 8 years ago, because I've been in commercial real estate for over 20 years.
Older
And
than me.
I know. I'm old. Thanks for pointing it out. I appreciate it, Carla. You're so sweet.
It's just so good.
But because commercial and residential always had like a divide, right?
Mm-hmm.
And investors, and I like to call them my boutique investors, right?
Yeah.
Like I was always at boutique brokerages or at my own place. I really didn't fit in at the CBREs and the Cushman Wakefields of the world.
Right.
It just wasn't my thing. A, I'm a little greedy. I didn't really like the splits. B, I'm just not a very big, huge corporate structure guy.
Right.
I mean, you guys have seen the team. We're not very structured.
We're pretty casual.
Pretty casual.
Let's call it casual.
Casual.
Right.
But it's fun.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it. And there's no one, hey, Carla, it's 9 o'clock. Where are you?
Why haven't you made your phone calls?
Yeah.
this
Hey,
morning?
I see I've been tracking your phone calls and you haven't got on the phone at all.
Could you?
And if you don't start getting on the phone, I'm going to have to get rid of you. Like, no.
Like the words I would have might be colorful. That'll lead us into rainbows and unicorns later.
Rainbows and
Yes.
unicorns, it's coming.
Yeah.
And I think that for the investors that call the CBRE and they're like, hey, I have $2 million and I want to buy something, that's not a blip on their radar.
Right.
They don't want to spend the time to train that new client on what the market is,
Right.
how it's going to work, what they're going to do. And so these guys are lost and they don't know how to approach it. So then they go back to their residential agent who just bought them a house or, I mean, let's be honest, there's a million of them out there. Everyone knows a residential agent. And if you
91,000.
yeah. So you probably know
in
like
Arizona.
10
Wow.
in your initial social circle of friends.
Probably.
Probably. So
the
they
very
go to
least.
them and they're like, hey, I need to buy a commercial building. I've been calling all these brokers and no one will get back to me. What do I do? And then the residential agent does one of two things. They either A, try and figure it out, which
Yikes.
is scary.
Dangerous.
For a lot of reasons.
Or B, they're smart enough to go, this isn't my area of expertise.
Let me find
Let
someone.
me find someone to give it to. And 10 years ago, I wouldn't even pick up their calls, right?
Right.
It was like, oh my gosh, this residential agent's calling me. They're going to want to like ask me questions. Maybe they got something like, I don't want to train them.
Right.
But the market started shifting, technology started catching up, and my business model changed. And all of a sudden I went, you know what? There's a disconnect here. I bet if I worked with those guys, there's some money on the table to be had.
Right. Like partner up instead of being adversary.
Exactly. Instead
Right.
of going, I'm not going to pick, like, I don't want to deal with it, or I don't want to train it, or, you know, the big thing in the commercial world at that time was like, well, why don't you just give me the lead and I'll just take care of it? Because you know you don't know how to take care of it anyway, and
Right.
you can't find
patronizing.
you can't find the deals. So just let me. It's the best fiduciary for your clients. You just give them to me,
Right.
and then I'll go get the deal done.
Right.
But I shifted that and went, okay, there's a different way to do this, and started working with those agents. And it took a little while. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, this is working.
Mhm.
And then they got a referral fee, and they were happy because that wasn't happening before. Their clients happy, and they still get to keep them for all the residential stuff. We take care of them for all the commercial stuff. And it started to take off. And then, weird enough, now the other bigger guys in the valley started taking the residential referrals, which was hilarious to me. I mean, that started coming in pretty strong like 3 years ago. But, you know, we've been doing it for a solid, 6-7 years now, and it's been a great model.
Well, and the way you and I met was we were at a class coincidentally together, and I was at a different brokerage, another commercial brokerage, and I was doing that, but my broker told me that was a bad idea. That was stupid. That's never going to make you any money. And I was like, well, I mean, I just want to help people, regardless of if I'm, making any money off of this or not. I just want to help people, and there's people that need help, and there's agents that need help, and they need our expertise. And you're telling me that that's a bad idea. I just feel like it's not. And then Aaron and I met, and that was his model. And I was like, how's it going, cowboy?
Like, hey, we got some stuff to talk about.
You do it.
I think we are on the same page here.
Right. I feel like this is a good match. And then I came to my first meeting and I met Audra. And Audra, I instantly connected with. She's super smart, and she has such an interesting and extensive background, and almost, I would say, coined the phrase residential. And what does that mean, Audra?
Well, for years and years and years, I did both commercial and residential. I had a client that I approached, and I wanted to have him buy some multifamily to invest in here in Arizona. Excuse me. And he didn't have any interest in doing that at all. His whole focus was larger office buildings that he had 4 or 5 of back in Wisconsin. So when I asked him to do that here, he had no interest in wanting to do that at all. He said, I want to buy bigger buildings. So I thought, okay. So ironically, my hours for continuing education were up. So I thought, I'll go and do commercial classes.
Oh, those classes were so great, weren't they?
Oh my gosh. So I sat there through this whole thing.
3 hours at a time.
Yes. And all they did was bash residential agents. I mean, they kept saying how stupid we were, how we were just order takers, that we just fill out forms, all the things, right? And then at the end, everybody was approaching me trying to recruit me. And I was like, you guys, what the heck?
Right.
You just called
me stupid.
You just beat me with a baseball bat, and now you want me to come play with you? I'm thinking, no. So I went off on my own, and I figured it out. I made it work. I found a building for him. It was across from Los Sendas, bank owned, and I found it on the MLS, right? Because I didn't have the tools that we have now. And I approached the other agent, and I literally used the commercial forms that are on for use.
Right.
And I told the gentleman, I said, this is my first go. So if I do stupid things, it's not because I'm trying to be obtuse. It's just because I don't know any better. And he was very kind, and he said, okay, fine. And actually, I still work with this person quite a bit. So thank you very much to the Milne brothers. You guys are awesome. And that deal almost fell apart. I mean, I had to hold it together with glue and duct tape and spit and all the things. And my client was on a cruise, of course, out of the country. And I was just freaking out. Like, I don't even remember exactly what was falling apart, but it was so many years ago. But so I did several deals with that gentleman. And then I joined another team here at MHG. Like I said, I was doing commercial and residential this whole time. So that hence residential. And then that team was leaving my home group. So I had spoken to Aaron a couple of times on the phone, and he was very helpful and very genuine and I just thought, this guy's cool. And so I approached him and I said, would you be my mentor? And he said, no.
I believe it. He kind of sucks at that part.
Exactly. It wasn't I didn't like Audra. I know where my strong suits are. Like I said, not corporate America. I was like, yeah, I suck at that. That's not going to work.
So my little heart sank and broke. And I was just crestfallen. And he said, but if you want to come down to the office and hang out and ask questions and learn and do, and I'll throw you some people to work with, then we can do that. And I was like, okay, let's
Which
do that.
Kind of might be mentoring, I
Like,
guess.
it's just not structured. Like, let's not label it. Okay.
Yeah.
It's trial by fire.
Like
Yeah.
when people want to go stay, like, hey, can we go stay? Like, let's just not put
Ooh,
names on
right?
it. Like,
Yeah. That
this
sounds
is a
like
good
commitment.
Let's
Right?
not
thing.
label
We're
it.
hanging out.
Let's not label
We're
it.
having fun.
Don't label it.
Let's not label this thing.
No, Erin's definitely better at, hey, I have a lead for this, or I have a client looking for an office building, and he's like, oh, well, let's show him this one, and then let's walk through the process together, which probably is technically mentoring, but we can't label it.
Yeah, don't.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll
Lots
walk
of it
you
is just-
through it.
Trial by fire.
I'll answer your
Yeah.
stupid questions.
And answer all your questions. We'll have those annoying phone calls. Just don't put a name on it.
So that's exactly what I did. I came down to the office and I had a couple deals that were going at the time that I brought to the table. It was just like, okay, how are we going to make this happen? How are we going to make it work? And it was fantastic. And I love what I do. And I was the second lady on the team. And there was only 5 of us at the time. And it was great. I'd go home and I was just thrilled with what I was doing. I felt like I was making a difference. I felt like I was helping people, and it changed everything.
It was great. And I think I'm coming back full circle to your, smashing down walls.
Yeah.
Like, the thing I love about Audra is she's not afraid to just go and do it. Like she
Yeah.
said, it was her first deal and she had a client. She didn't know what to do. And she was like, well, I'm here and I'm going to
Right.
do the deal.
Figure
And you
it
guys
out.
are going to have to figure it out with me one way or
Mhm.
another. And, hats off to the broker on the other side of the table for working with her and being
Right.
patient. But, major kudos to Audra because she was like, I don't care if you guys aren't going to let me play in this sandbox or not. I'm going
Right.
to play in it.
Also, speaking of smashing through walls, I think you bring up a good point when you say I was only the second woman on the team. I was only the third.
Yes.
So
I know. And now I think you guys outnumber us. I was
We-
counting that
it's
the other
almost
day. I
like
was like, how?
representation matters. I'm just saying. Like,
Literally, when we did pictures the other day, I was like, when did this dynamic shift?
maybe I should have been in the middle. No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe. That'd have been fun. Just put Carla in there.
Right, just throw over. It is definitely commercial real estate in general. I think a lot of people, when they think of real estate, they picture your traditional Century 21 headshot with that's like 20 years too old and it's always a woman in it. But when it comes to commercial real estate, it is very male dominated.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, says the guy.
That's right, ladies. You remember that.
Let's talk about
You guys just-
mansplaining for
you
a
Right,
minute.
let's
you
just talk
stay in
about
your- stay in your
mansplaining.
place for stay in your lane.
Mansplaining.
That was one of the reasons why I wanted to have both people on, because Erin is a fan, I'd say, of women without trying to sound bad. Like, how else do I say that?
He's very supportive of.
He's a fan of women. Wow. I could go
I'm
a
not
few
gonna tell
ways.
his wife.
Sorry,
Um,
Randa. So
That's
sorry.
either a Hugh Hefner or a sex trader. I don't know.
Oh my
that's,
God.
that's
Okay,
one
it's
of
going in the wrong direction. Okay,
Carla, right over the
Woo.
inappropriate, and they're just
This
going
is
off.
the first
off kilter.
episode. I have to let everybody know what this is going to be like for the rest of all of the episodes, all of the
Oh
time.
my goodness.
Okay, we'll call Aaron supportive.
Supportive, very supportive.
He's supportive of his female counterparts in the industry, and that's not always the case.
Correct.
Agreed.
I would say that Audra and I probably still get met by walls and ceilings, so to speak.
Huge barriers.
Yep. And he's definitely there to always have our back and to make sure that we are being listened to because he respects us in our field. So one of the reasons why I started this is I wanted to give, I'd say, predominantly women a place in our industry to pull up a chair and discuss like why we do need a seat at the table and why we are just as good as our equal male counterparts in commercial real estate, even though we are not always equally represented.
Yeah, and I think the equal representation is a big thing, and I think that it's old norms, right? And
Right.
I mean, I play into the stereotype where if you ask me, go into a room and pick out the commercial brokers, I'm gonna pick pretty much all the guys. I'm gonna
Mhm.
say that's one, that one looks like one, that one looks like one. It's just there hasn't been a big female part in that play, which, hey, if I judge it on the merits,
Mhm.
do you know what you're doing, and can you get a deal
Well,
done?
shit, I'm screwed.
I know. Carla's out. But I mean, and I say it all the time. I've met guys in the field in our industry that are fantastic. They're great to work with, and you're like, man, I can get a deal done. I'm happy to sit across the
Mhm.
table from you anytime, and we're going to work it out. And you meet guys that are assholes, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I do not want to work with that guy ever again. And I'll judge the same on the female part.
Mhm.
There's a few females where their names come up, and I'm like, oh my
I
gosh,
think I know them.
you know two of them for sure. And I'm just like, I won't even touch the deal
Yeah.
just because I know it's going to be a nightmare. And so I don't. It's we live in a weird world. I feel like, right? Like I
Mhm.
feel like gender and race are 10 times bigger than they were when I was a kid. And
Right.
maybe I was just naive and I didn't
Maybe.
understand it. But now it's like I was never taught that. I was always taught if someone is a good person and they work hard, okay, that's how I'm going to judge them. If someone's an asshole and lazy, that's how I'm going to judge them.
Right.
Doesn't matter race, color, gender,
We're
creed,
just
whatever.
asking for the opportunity to show you that we're a lazy asshole. That's
That's all. Well, but it's sad though because we still have
Right.
conversations even in our meetings where it's like,
Right.
hey, like were you or Audra or Jen or
We're not getting
Aaron
an
will come to us.
answer.
You're
Yeah.
not getting an answer, and I'm like, we start looking through, and I'm like, okay, this guy's misogynistic. I'm gonna have to call him, and then I'm gonna start the
Put kind of a
conversation.
male voice on
We
it.
put the male context to it, and then all of a sudden we get traction,
Yep.
and then we pull it back in.
And
And sometimes we're able to switch it back. I think
Right.
Michael was
one.
a
Yep.
good example of that.
Yep.
Like you could not get anywhere,
No.
and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, Michael, da 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 da
Yeah.
da, and Carla's really good, and she's on my team, and so on and
Right.
so forth. And then he's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Now I'm his favorite person.
and now you're his
Just
favorite
saying.
person.
Yeah.
But we had to break through that
Yeah. Right.
because at first he's like, nothing.
Right.
It was silence.
Well, I feel like there's a type for that too, right? It's pretty stereotypical. In particular, this person is a much older guy, and I just feel like he's probably just not used to dealing with women, and in his head, he probably thinks he has nothing against them, right? It's just
Yeah.
it's not his typical norm. And the broker he's dealing with in California is a guy, and the broker he's dealing with in Colorado is a guy, but his one in Arizona isn't.
Look out.
Look out. So it's definitely been an interesting dynamic, and I do feel the shift happening. I'm excited to be part of it. I feel like, almost like helping pioneer it, and, that I have awesome counterparts on my team that are also doing that, and that, yeah, we have a lot of female representation on our team.
Yeah,
We
how
do now,
many
that's
was
for
it
sure.
the
I
other
don't
night?
know.
It's like,
I think there's 8.
yeah, we
I'd have
only
to
got like
count.
14, so
Just
you guys
saying.
have the upper hand now.
Right?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you better
I'm
just
in for
slide
trouble.
You better behave
over.
yourself, Dutch.
Well, but it's like you said, we have great talented people.
Yep.
Right. So we're going to judge them on who they are and also how they fit in the team.
Right.
Like
We are a unique
we
group.
are a unique group of people. And that's why I always bring people in on meetings and say, okay, come to a meeting and see how
Get
you
past
feel.
Carla.
And some of them we never see again.
That's true.
Right.
And
I have no problem
it's
with
not
that.
just my fault, though. I'm just going to throw that
You
out
know,
there.
it's not for everybody. And
Right.
that's okay. We are a different, distinct group. I like to call us a group of misfit toys.
Yes.
And we all have very strong personalities, I would
Mhm.
say, but we all fit together. And I really love our team because we count on each other,
Mhm.
which I also think is unusual. In residential, they teach you to be a maverick. They teach
Yeah.
you to be, don't trust anybody else, don't do anything with anybody else. And so when we have resident agents come in that are primarily residential, they kind of don't know what to do with that. They're very like, wait, you're going to help me write this LOI? You're going to show
Right.
property for me? You're going
Yeah, they're very skeptical.
Yeah, and I
don't want to show you what I'm working with over here. I'm going to
Yeah,
keep
I'll-
it close to my heart.
I'll
and let
tell
it
you
show.
that the brokerage I came from, although a commercial brokerage was boutique, and that's how I was raised, right? was the same way. And so when I came over, I did struggle with that initially. And I'm just kind of competitive and stuff already. So
Really? No.
So odd.
Really? I
wow,
had
it's
no
almost like you guys
idea.
know me. That's so strange. But yes, big surprise. So it has taken me some time to adjust to like sharing my
I've
toys with everybody.
I've noticed that. It
Yes,
took you a while to open up.
it did.
And I think part of that, like you said, was from where you came.
Right.
But I think that that's one of my favorite things about our team, really, is that it is a big collaborative and we're all striving for the same thing.
Right.
And everything is out in the open. I mean, so much as Dutch has a deal tracker, right?
Yes.
And it shows everybody's name. It shows what the deal is. It shows what the splits are. It shows what the commission was that's going to everybody. It shows the referral. It shows everything. And one of the things I really love about Dutch is that money can be such a weird topic,
Mhm.
right? But when I bring a deal to the table and we'll sit down and he'll put it on the deal tracker and then he'll split up the funds. And then, I've even gone to the point where I'm like, Dutch, I didn't really do that much on this deal. I remember one specifically where I was just like, I think you gave me 15% of the deal, whatever it was. And I was just like, I didn't do that much. I'll take 10 because I feel like that's
Right.
fair. And then give my other 5 to Justin because he really worked a lot harder on this than I did. And it's amazing that it's as open and as frank and as honest a conversation because I think everywhere you go, once again, you keep your cards close to your vest. You don't
Mhm.
show anybody anything. But I know exactly what Dutch made last year. He knows
Right.
what I made. I mean, everybody knows, right? Everybody knows.
Well, and I think that that's part of our appeal to the residential
Dynamic.
agents as well as we partner with them to take care of their commercial clients is they feel that openness. And so they know like we're not trying to steal your client. We're not trying to like we just want to help extend the same great service that you've given your client. And I think that like exudes from us because we're all open with each other.
Absolutely. Dutch, what did we pay out last year in referral fees? Almost $300,000?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
290, I think.
290 and some change.
Yeah.
So
290,000 to residential agents as a
a-
thank you
As a referral fee.
for referring their
Mhm.
clients. Yeah,
Mhm.
and even one of those was 6 years old,
that's true.
which is also crazy.
We had to find her.
Yeah, I was
Right?
like,
Like, we had to hunt for
I
her.
was like, I don't even know where this came from. Like,
Yeah.
I had to go like into like an old email database and like track it down. It's like, hey, by the way, your client's
6
closing, and she's like,
6
what?
years.
I
Yeah.
forgot about
6
them.
years.
Which speaks to how long some of these commercial deals take. So sometimes some of the residential agents will say they want to learn about the commercial process. And I'm like, okay. And then they're like excited, but we don't do anything for like 6 months. And they're like, wow, this one's a lot slower than I thought. So, they like, because commercial, everything's kind of turn and burn in 30 days all the time. It's very fast paced
For
or in
residential.
residential, right? So it's like sometimes when things take 6 years, it's
I like to
Par for the
compare
course.
it to they're both cats, right? They're both cats. I mean, let's think of real estate as cats, right?
okay.
But
Can't going with it.
I know, right? Listening.
okay,
I'm curious.
but residential is like your typical tabby feline, right?
And then got stripes.
It's got- no, and I mean, it's an everyday thing, right? Whereas I see commercials kind of the lion, right? I mean,
Oh,
it's a big deal. It's
Big
it takes a
cats.
long
big
time.
cats. I was
Big
thinking like the hairless cat, like not that cat.
Why do
You
we want to be
have
the hairless cat,
friends?
Carla?
I don't know.
But I mean, I'm just saying that they're similar, but they're so vastly different.
Right.
That they're both cats, but it's night and day, right? So I think that when some of these residential agents enter into it, once again, and there's times when I have to slow my roll because
Right.
I have to realize that it is it's a snail's pace. Everything doesn't happen overnight. We aren't, I can't jump up and down and
Right. Well,
be like, go, go, go.
right.
It's not
And
how-
it's a very different process. I would just got off the phone last night with a client who was like, I'm very frustrated with how this process works. Like, I had to explain that's not how this shit works, right?
Yeah, like it's a
he's
different
like,
thing.
right. He's like, between the LOI process and then we get entered a contract and then we get the leases. He's like, it feels very backwards, very cart before the horse. And
It kind of is working backwards.
it just kind of is. Yeah.
And I think it is offsetting for people that don't know it and don't understand it and understand traditional ways. I think once you understand it, you find that it works more
Right.
efficiently and quicker. And quite honestly, I wouldn't do it any other way. I mean,
Yeah.
I even tell residential people, I'm like, you guys really should move to LOIs, especially in this
Right.
market where you're writing massive contracts with 8,000 addendums and sending it over for 80 or 30 deals that you
Right.
don't get approved on.
Right.
So it makes sense because our contracts are property
Right.
specific, our listings are property specific, leases, are property specific and come from the landlord. So it's like, it's not stuff you can just do for your client. You don't know all the misnomers
It's
about that
true.
property or that landlord that you don't know. So you kind of have to go backwards and figure it out and build it that way. And when it is, then it's great and it can work really quick. But for new people, yeah, it's very
It's true.
off-putting because they don't know. It feels odd.
So an LOI is a letter of intent for those that are listening that don't know. And it's almost like we're dating. Like I'm throwing it out there. Like here's kind of like my
I like you.
parameters.
Do you like
I like
me?
you. Do you like me?
I mean, you don't
Right.
have to.
Right. I
but
like
if-
cats.
but
Like
if
I
you'd
need
like
to know that you like cats too. And before we move forward, I need you to sign this to make sure that you like cats as well. If
I was
that all
gonna go
looks
with
good,
kiss on the first date. But if you want to go with cats, you can go with
right.
cats.
And then the contract is getting married, right?
Yeah.
Like this is a contractually binding agreement. And in residential, they all just throw the same contract
Over and
over and over and over at the seller's agent. And so they're getting married from the get-go, right?
Yeah.
It's like an arranged marriage. It's like there was
An
no
arranged
dating.
marriage. There's no dating. This is what's happening.
This is what's happening.
You must do
There's
it.
no
Tradition.
goats traded or
Tradition.
anything. Like that's nothing interesting at
No
all.
romance.
Yeah.
Right. There's no romance. So speaking of today's current market, with residential agency and that kind of thing, one of the things we're seeing a lot of that I know you have experience with is industrial buyers coming in and paying cash for, in my opinion, they're almost taking away the American dream because they're inflating the prices by paying cash and giving these
Are
like
you
super
talking like
sexy
Open
offers.
Door and BlackRock
Yeah,
and those type
BlackRock
of
specifically,
things?
right?
Gotcha.
So where I'm going is like they're industrial and they're REITs. And I don't know if everybody understands what that means or kind of how that impacts the market and then what role even we as commercial agents play in terms of dealing with REIT investors.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there.
That's a big bag.
That's a lot of questions kind of wrapped into one, and I could go in a lot of directions. So I'm going to try and tone this down just a little bit because
Okay.
I talk way too much.
Right. Daryl will start yelling at
Yeah,
us
be
and
like,
telling us
dude,
we're going
you've
over.
got to bring it down. I always tell my wife, okay, so I'm going to make this a short story, and she just rolls her eyes. She's like, this is not going to be a short story. So I think the thing that jumps out to me when you say that is kind of the shift in investor excitement.
Right.
From the institutional level down. So talking about your BlackRocks, your REITs, your so forth. Multifamily, right? So that's
Oh,
where they went first.
Brutal.
Multifamily. I mean, and I'll fall on my sword here. I totally missed this one. 2018, I started preaching multifamily's dead. Like it's gone as far as it can go. The prices are inflated. I mean, it had been on a solid rise since 2013. 5 years. I was like, there is no way multifamily can do more than what it's already done. It's done. Caps are going to continue to suppress, which they have. I was right about that. But I was like, but people will stop buying, which they haven't
They have not.
at all. And I
Blows
mean,
my mind.
so multifamily has now moved to the position for institutional buyers. They don't want to buy the 20, 50, 100 unit stuff.
Right.
They want the 150, 200, 300,
Like
400.
massive apartment complexes.
Well, guess where those cap rates are now? In the 3s.
Yeah.
That's not even inflation right now.
No.
Like they're basically parking money with the hope that it's going to appreciate on some level, but with having pretty much zero return.
Right.
It's safe because it's multifamily. All their eggs aren't in one basket. So they'll dump, 400 million into an apartment
Millions.
and let it sit. And then they're just going to let it sit for 10 years or 7 years. And then they're going to turn it. So what they've done and where the shift has come is in house rentals
Mm-hmm.
or house flips where they can make more of the bang. So really what they're looking to do, you have your open doors and ones like that
Right.
that aren't
Your
as big.
iBuyers. Yeah.
They're flipping.
Yeah.
They're just a institutional flipper
Yep.
is all. But your BlackRocks, what the model is there is the rental home.
Mm-hmm.
And so because people can't get in apartments and people can't buy a home, I mean, what's a starter home in Arizona now?
Oh, I'd say we're talking 400
Yeah,
at a
like
minimum.
we just helped my sister-in-law buy a 2-bedroom townhouse. She couldn't approve for it because the price was so much. So we went on it with her.
That's nice of you.
So we bought it with her, equity share, which is
Mhm.
great. She's going to take part of the profit. I'm going to take part of the profit, but she's going to live there.
Mm-hmm.
That said, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, like 1,200 square foot townhouse in Mesa, Arizona.
Mhm.
It was $287,000.
Yeah.
That's ludicrous to
Right.
me.
And there's not many available.
And the only reason
Right.
we got that is because the owner knew me and knew that I was looking for
Mhm.
stuff and just called me. It was like, hey, I'm going to sell this. I'll give you a week if you want to buy it. Just let me know.
Sold.
And then I'm going to put it on my, I was like, write it up. I'll take it.
Right.
Like, I'm not even going to, and I knew I had options, but I knew I was getting something that probably would have sold for cash in the threes.
Probably.
Right. And so when you don't have starter homes, what do the big institutions start? And you can't get apartments, big institutions to put this together. And you're going to start seeing a lot more of these. I know of about 3 communities that are getting built right now. They're not apartment homes, they're rental homes.
Oh, the build to rent.
Built to rent.
Yeah.
So you are getting these, 6-acre, 10-acre complexes. And instead of a, 4-story, 5-story apartment building, what they're putting in are these little houses.
Mhm.
Everyone's got a yard, everyone's got a little house, but then they're renting it. You never own it.
Aren't those still zoned multifamily too? They're not parceled for single.
They're not parceled for
Yeah.
single. Most of them. There's one I know in Casa Grande that's getting parceled for single, but they're owning them all. And
Well,
they're
that's for
renting
their exit strategy
exactly.
if they need it, right?
Because
So
when
that
they
can sell them
exit,
off,
they're going
right?
to sell each one,
Right.
which I think is way smarter. But these other
Heck
big guys,
yeah.
they don't care. They'll put a $300 million complex together and they know they're going to sell it
Yeah.
down the road, and they're going to find another institution that's willing to buy it because it's that safe rental model. You've got these guys coming in, and when they're losing out on apartments because they've bought them all up. There's only so many 300 unit apartments in Arizona,
Right.
right? They don't come on all the time. So when those are gone, where do they go? Well, now we got to do these rental home communities, or what you said it, the proper term. I can't
What
remember.
did I say? Build to rent.
Build to rent. Thank
Yes.
you. The build to rent communities. So you're going to see a lot more of those.
I
And
agree.
we get hit with it all the time. Institutions looking for land because that's what they're doing.
Yep. How many? I feel like we have a lot of buyers right now looking for land to do some of these exact models we're talking about. And there's no shortage of those buyers right now,
No, not at all.
which indicates to us at least that there is no bubble
No.
bursting or coming.
Well, and let's talk about that for just a quick
Yeah.
second. Like everyone always says bubble, bubble, bubble. And this is one of my other favorite things about 2018 because there's another broker in the Valley, very well known, very good investor. And so when I'm preaching in 2018, multifamily's dead, he's preaching the bubble's coming, the bubble's coming, the bubble's coming.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, there's no bubble.
Right.
Like there's no bubble. And I've started to hear it click up a little bit again because it's natural. This is what it feels like what happened in 2018 or
Right.
2008. What the difference is, and here's the
There's massive differences.
the two
Right.
big ones in my opinion. Inventory. We don't have it. Then we had they were building faster than people were coming in.
Right.
We don't have that. And 2 is liquidity. Back then, people were getting 100% loans, 120% loans.
It's true.
They're getting 100% loan on their house, then getting a 50% equity line, and
It's-
going and buying a Hummer. Like it was crazy, stupid shit going on.
Yeah.
And so everyone was getting money with no equity, and they were negative equity on everything.
So why not walk away?
So
I have nothing to
I have
lose.
nothing to lose. $100,000. I already got $100 extra grand on this house that's worth less than that.
Right.
And I can go rent down the street for half the price of my mortgage payment. I'm out.
Yep.
Because there's plenty of houses.
Right.
Now, number one, there's no houses. Where are you going to go? Right? I mean, that's the classic conversation. I could sell my house for $1.5 million
exciting.
today. Like I could get cash $1.5 million today. Bam, I'll walk out. I owe $400,000 on my house.
Done.
That sounds like a great deal.
Right.
Where am I going to go?
Your RV.
There's no
Yeah.
place to go.
There's no place to go. I could go
I have
live in
several-
an RV in Payson, because that might be the only place that has an opening to even fit an RV.
Right.
Like there's nothing.
Well, and the other conversation on that is that I have several clients that want to downsize. They have these, they're getting older. They have these massive homes that they don't want to take care of anymore, with acreage or yard or pools or all the things. And they'd be happy to downsize and do something else. But once again, where is there to go? And I think that going back to your point, Dutch, in terms of 2008, I was building homes at that time in Salt Lake City, Utah, and the general area. And we had a teacher that had 5 houses, 5,
Mhm.
a teacher. So, that goes back to, bad loans and
Right.
qualifying and all those things.
Yeah, and
So
if you had to get a loan recently, it's not easy.
No,
Like, they put in so many safeguards on that. Like, it's not easy at all.
I feel like in that time frame, it was like, what do you make?
It was.
And
It's
and
all
you'd
stated
and you'd
income.
Stated
yeah,
income.
and you'd
Yeah.
answer the question. They'd be like, "Are you sure?
And they'd be
Are you
like,
sure you don't make
well,
some
which is
more?"
why the
Wink,
teacher
wink.
could get 5
Right.
houses.
Yeah.
Stated income.
Yeah.
But, I think that also that with the influx of people here in the valley, I read the other day that there's 200 people a day that are moving
It's
in.
yeah, like 250. It's
Oh
bananas.
my
And
gosh.
then I
Per
also
day.
read that U-Haul, and that's just one moving company, right? They have 1,000 one-way trucks a month coming into the valley. So and that's just U-Haul. That's not Mayflower. That's not Penske. It's
Right.
not any. It's nobody else, right? So if you think about that massive influx of people, and if you look at what's happening down in Casa Grande, if you look at what's happening off of the Deer Valley and the 17, and you see the industry and the big, huge manufacturing that's coming in
Right.
and all the jobs and all the, the influx is absolutely mind blowing.
Those companies are laying out billions of dollars to build
Yeah.
here, and there is no way they would put out those kinds of funds without at least just a solid gut belief that like
I think
people are
it's a little
still
bit
coming.
more than
I'm
a
just
gut
saying,
belief,
like
but
in my
Yeah.
previous life, I was an
I think-
analyst. We could go into
we could go
that.
into the data
But
that they're doing
at
to
a
actually confirm
minimum,
it.
there's a good gut instinct
Yeah.
that people are still coming.
Well,
Well,
and if you look at Lucid, if you look at
Yeah.
Kohler, if you look at there's huge companies that have been around and not Lucid so much, but Kohler's been around for 100 years? I don't even know, but they're not small. It's not small little startup. I mean, these
Right.
are big companies. I mean, look at how Amazon has grown throughout the valley, and
Yeah,
look
in
at
the
their
West Valley.
distribution. Look at their distribution warehouses. I mean, it's insane what's going on
The
here.
Taiwanese semiconductor
Which
Right.
is
up in the North Valley
huge.
is,
Yeah, I was just
and they're
flying over it
bringing in
yesterday.
even more
It's-
commerce.
and it's moving so fast.
Wow, really?
Like so fast.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And I think bringing that into that job growth
Mhm.
and in industry growth, and then just the liquidity factor again, like why would you walk away from your home if you have 100,000 in equity?
Right.
And almost everyone has 100,000 in equity.
At least.
Why
yeah.
would you walk away from your home if you have 500,000 in equity?
Mhm.
And let's take that to the next level, commercial, because
Mhm.
in 2008, 2009, guess what you could also do on commercial? You get a 100% loan,
Right.
which is insane. Have you ever heard of a 100% loan on
No.
commercial?
No.
No. But you could then. So what were people doing?
Right.
I'm going to get a 100% loan
Why
on this
not? I could
building.
own a strip mall.
Yeah. and again, stated income. So you
Right.
had people getting commercial properties that weren't in that field.
Right.
They had no prior knowledge, they had no experience, and they could get a 100% loan because, hey, I make $1 million a year, give me the loan.
Right.
So you had commercial properties even walking away, which is unheard of because those are full recourse. So whereas your home, you can walk away scot-free and the bank can't come after you. All their recourse is to take the home.
Right.
In commercial, full recourse means that I'm not only going to be able to come after you for this building I'm going to repo, but now your house,
Mhm.
your cars, your bank account. Shoot, we're going to come after your kids. Like it's
Right.
full recourse. Like they're going to come after the whole thing. I mean, they can't take your kids. I'm being
Oh
exaggerated.
man,
but
I was really hoping that was
you
how
might
I
need your
could.
kids taken away.
Yeah.
But I kid. So it was a really weird time where you had even landlords killing businesses because they were getting foreclosed on or they were
Mhm.
going into bankruptcy, which again, we don't have today because I don't know of 100% loan on commercial I've even heard of in 12 years.
No.
B, they all have equity and they've all paid a lot of cash and
Right.
most of them have paid cash. So you go look at you pull a $20 million office building. I guarantee you one of two things you're going to see. Either A, they have very limited debt on it or it's cash.
Right.
And that's a different marketplace, right? So then that takes away your fear of the bubble.
Mhm.
So will it slow down? I
Sure.
think it has to.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think that slowdown will be more like a plateau that then may
Yeah.
feel like a crash, but it's not actually a crash. It's just a plateau. But because they're not seeing these huge 30% swings anymore, they're like, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. No, it's not. We're just back to what we should have been to begin with, which is, fairly normal.
Well, it's like when you drive fast. I know she drives fast. Do you drive fast?
No, never.
I only have one speed. It's 80
Carla's-
miles an hour. So either lead, follow, or get the
That's
out
not
of
the
the way.
speed limit?
So she's like,
it is on the 101.
So like
That's
I
why
always,
Liz drives.
this is how it feels, right? So right now we're going 120 down the 101.
Right.
Like we're flying. Hair's on fire, we're flying. And now we're gonna the market's gonna slow down. And we're gonna go the speed limit.
We're going back to the speed limit,
We're
right?
gonna go back to 65, but now it's gonna feel like we're at a snail's pace and it's gonna feel weird.
Right. And we all know what that feels like, right? When
Yeah.
you're flying down the freeway, because it's Arizona. I don't think any of us actually drive slow. And you see the police car and then you slow down to like the speed limit. And it feels like now you're going slow when really you're just going how you're supposed to go.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And I think that's exactly how it's gonna feel, right?
Yeah.
So give it a year and all of a sudden we're gonna hit the brakes. And people are going to freak out. They're going to be like, oh, no, the sky is falling.
Right.
And the market's crashing. Sell your houses, move to Guam. I don't know. They're going to get crazy.
Go live on a coral reef.
Yeah. But then you sit in it for a second, you
Yeah.
recalibrate, and you're like, okay, we're good.
I feel like if we all survived the real crash, right, and everything that happened at that time, we even if some off chance it did crash again, we're all going to be fine.
Well, and I think that's one of the great strengths of human nature, right?
Mhm.
You never know what you're able to go through until you go through it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're never as strong as you think you are until you have to do something really hard.
Right.
And I think for those that went through the Great Recession,
Right.
that was a scary time.
It was.
I mean, quite frankly, just to be a little transparent on my part, I mean, I was doing really well. Like, and I mean, not by some people's
Like
standards.
baller
There's always a Jeff Bezos that's going to make
Right.
your really well seem very small. But I was doing really, really well. I had hit a lot of my life goals, and I was just about 30, and I was feeling like King Kong. I was like, man, I got this. I am freaking rocking it. And a year later, I was declaring bankruptcy, and I had $10,000 to my name. I went and flipped a house to make money, and that was super risky at the time because the
Mhm.
market was still falling like
Mm-hmm.
crazy. I got down to $100 in my bank account, and I told my wife, do not put gas in the car, do not buy groceries, do not do anything. We had a new baby. I'd already had 3 kids. We had a new baby, or 2 kids, 3 kids.
How many kids you got?
I have way too many kids. That's why I was like, someone take these kids. That's why they take the kids thing. I was like, thanks, come take the kids. You're taking everything else. Take the
Right,
kids.
take them too. They cost money.
They cost a lot of money. Anyway, new baby, however many kids I had at the time. I think I had 2. Had 2. New one. So I had
Sorry,
3
Randa.
total.
I'm like, Randa's calling in
Yeah.
and saying that was your third child.
So
Yeah.
sorry,
Yes.
Randa.
But I was like, don't spend any money because we have $100 to our name. Luckily, we flipped that house and we started doing different stuff and we made it through.
Right.
Right. And thank goodness, to friends and family, because literally, like, I was heavy leverage. I was in that generation of
Oh,
leverage
yeah.
everything. I had 19 houses, all fully leveraged. My house was leveraged. I had 4 or 5 cars because you guys know I love cars. So they were all leveraged. Toy hauler,
Right. There's a
Like,
loan on everything.
everything,
Yeah.
4-wheelers, Harley, old convertible, everything was leveraged.
Right.
Guess what happened when you do bankruptcy?
Right.
They take it all.
Right.
I
What a
had
sad day.
I
as
had
it's all like driving
nothing.
away.
I was borrowing a car from my parents, living in a house that was soon to be foreclosed,
Mm.
and trying to flip one to make some money. When you can go through that, it's like,
Right. You're like, it's fine.
bring it on.
Right.
Like let
It'll be
the
great.
let the crash. Sometimes I almost wish it would happen because I'm like, just let it go back, like reset everything.
Maybe we wouldn't have 91,000
Well,
licensed
because I'm not.
agents in Arizona
But also,
anymore.
if you learn from that lesson, like, I'm not leveraged now.
Right.
Like, the only debt I have in my life at this point in time is the $400,000 on my house, which I'm totally okay with because it's worth 1.5.
Right.
So I'm like,
Right.
I could care less.
Yeah.
That's my only debt.
Yeah.
And so that's a different thing. It's like, well, let it crash then. You're not taking my cars this time. You come and try it.
They're mine.
Those are
You can
mine.
still take
Mine.
my kids.
You
though.
can
Just
definitely
saying.
still take the kids. I got a 20-year-old on my couch right now. You can have him. The Marines didn't even want him.
Oh, that's
No.
funny. I bet he being a Marine and being 20, I bet that child can eat.
Oh my
That
gosh. he
$100
eats so
would have been
much.
gone in a
And
day.
I've been like, what? You fed our son? What were you thinking?
Well, that's just one. There's more. Like everybody needs food. Yeah. So where we were at that time, was we were living in Seattle. We had, and that's another difference too, is not only was everybody leveraged, right? Not only were there, and by that we mean like their loans are maxed out to the most they can be, they were giving us extra, right? So it's like nowadays you need like, oh, I don't know, a down payment. And
Weird.
weird.
Oh, and proof of funds, and have to show that you
That's
actually do make that $1 million,
details,
not
details.
just stated income.
Right.
Show me your bank account.
Right.
Show me the money.
Show me the money. So we had no money, and we had a house and the loans were bad. So we had a house that we owed our first mortgage on, and the second mortgage was our down payment, right? Not our actual down payment, a borrowed down payment.
Down payment
That
at a
was
higher
very
interest
common.
rate.
Very,
Right.
very, very common back in the
And
day.
they didn't tell us anything. And it's one of the reasons I went into real estate is because it was such a poor experience. I don't want anyone to ever go through that again, right? So we had a prepayment penalty. I had no idea what that was. What do you mean? This is my house. I can't just sell it whenever I want. Like
Well, you can. You just got to pay the fee.
right. So we bought in the Seattle area at the time. It was like a $200,000 house, and it was a dive and blood, sweat, and tears. We lived in that house, remodeled the whole thing, did everything our parents taught us to do, and went to sell it and make income off of it, right? So that we
Yeah.
could put it into the next house. And the bank stuck their hand out for not only the mortgages, plural, but an extra $15,000 per mortgage, which
Oh,
left us with very little.
yeah.
Ouchie.
Yeah.
Way ouchie.
Yeah. Now that's like an illegal practice in residential real estate, but
And so I think there's a lot of good things that did come from the crash.
100%.
Right? I
Yeah.
mean, in retrospect, of course, when you're when you're living
Living on
through
ramen
it,
for like a month.
yeah,
Yeah, that wasn't so good.
you're just slogging through it,
Yeah.
right? But I think that we all had to pivot, right? To use a
Right.
term that's become popular with
Yeah.
with the pandemic, we all had to shift and
Mhm.
figure it out and go do. At the time I was building in Salt Lake City, as I mentioned, I had my own subdivision of 42 luxury homes that all of a sudden was just gone. The
Like a
company
ghost
that
town.
the
Like,
company that I worked with, we were trying to be stand-up people. So whereas a lot of other companies just shuttered their doors and walked away, they didn't. We didn't have any. I mean, we were trying to give our contractors pennies on the dollar to at least
right.
try to make it right.
Something.
Give them something, give them anything, rather than just shuttering the doors
No,
and
which
saying,
most didn't. Yeah, most were like,
Abs-
we have no money, you have no money.
Right.
See ya.
so too
Bye.
bad, so sad, adios, amigo.
So were the houses like built in completion, or like were they still at the studs? Like were they still like what did that look like at the time? Because that must have been really interesting.
So the company was J. Ballard Homes
Mhm.
that we worked for, that I was a part of, and then my division was Park Place Luxury Homes. So J. Ballard had 75 homes on the ground built, ready to go, empty, vacant, not sold, just sitting there.
Wow.
Luckily for me, I sold my neighborhood as people, I mean, they're purchased,
Mhm.
right? So I had roughly 20 homes on the ground built. One of them, we did a parade of homes, which is kind of like the Street of Dreams here.
Right.
Huge honor to be a part of. And the things that you have to do to achieve that is just absolutely incredible. I mean, they give you 6 months to break ground. They have all these milestones you have to hit, right? So they come through and they inspect your house. They look and see what you're doing. You have to design it, build it, put it up, decorate it, and then have people come. So, it was an amazing thing. I mean, I think that thing at the time, and once again, Salt Lake prices are a lot different than here. They're roughly 25%, 25 to 30% less than I would say the Valley.
Mhm.
So that parade of homes was 9,000 square feet and change, 4 stories, 2 sub basements, and because I was building on the bench, right?
Mhm.
So you had walkout basements that you could view the valley from, and that was 1.5.
Wow.
In 2008, which was a lot of money back in the day,
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
right?
I feel like it still should be a
It
lot of
still
money.
should be a
Anytime
lot
you're
of money,
putting
right?
an M in front of it, like
Well, it's ridiculous. Like we were talking, the starter homes here are in the fours. Like,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable to me.
But
Well,
if we
and-
take that, talking about millions, if
Yeah.
we take that to commercial once again,
Mhm.
we do have people that say, "Oh, I have $1 million and I want to spend it on X, Y, and Z." And yes, it's a lot of money. It's not something I can write a check for
Right.
tomorrow or pile it in fat stacks here on the table.
Carla, don't be modest.
But-
We know you're, or Audra, don't be modest. We know you're just stacking cash back there.
But-
Write that check.
But I mean, even though it seems like a lot of money, when they come to us, depending on the product they want to purchase, it's not,
Yeah,
sadly.
no, sadly, it's like it's that barrier to entry, right? The barrier to entry on residential is you got to buy a $400,000 home
with a
like,
hefty down payment.
with a hefty down payment. The barrier to entry in commercial is you might have $1 million and I might not be able to do anything for you.
Right.
Like, right?
Well, once again, depending on the product, for
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
right? I mean, let's talk about. Well, let's see. We have tons of clients that are looking for storage, right? Or flex
Yeah.
space. Let's talk about what flex
Yeah,
space
flex.
is. So it's basically a small office in the front and massive amounts of
I
warehouse
like to
in the
call it
back.
the mullet of industrial. It's a business in the front, party in the back.
I know what party you're having in a
Well,
warehouse. but-
You haven't been to the warehouse parties I've been to, then you got to step it up.
But I mean, it just doesn't exist, right? There is none. I mean, I have all these folks. I can think of 5 clients right off the top of my head
Yeah.
that we're all working with as a team
Mhm.
that we can't place them anywhere. It just doesn't exist,
Well, and
right?
if it does, it's gone
In a
same
day.
Fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was just talking to another one yesterday, called up, referral. And I said, that's awesome. Happy to help you. Just so you know, and I try and tell them in a really nice way and over a good
Manage
conversation.
expectations.
But-
Right.
But that is like looking for a needle in a haystack right
Mhm.
now because they just don't exist. Everyone wants them. You're under 10,000 square feet in industrial in the valley. It's gone that day. So if I find something and I send it to you, I need you to tell me
Make quick
that day
decisions.
if you want it. And it sounds bad. It's almost like that video you guys sent me the other day where
Oh,
Holderness
the
family.
Holderness family.
they're like, do you want it? You haven't even shown me a picture. I don't even know what it is. No,
Eh.
do you want it right now? Do you want it right now? I need to know. Oh, nope, it's
It's
gone.
gone.
It's gone.
And it's gone. And let's talk about the tools we use. I mean, so the MLS costs roughly $350 a year to utilize. And then we have CoStar, which is basically our MLS, which costs us $350 a month to use.
Right.
And sadly, CoStar has no interest in being an MLS. They just want to be data analytics and all those things. So even when we're looking for properties for people, I can be looking at listings on there that are from 2016, 2018, all the things. So once again, I think it goes back to the relationships that we have to forge and make with our fellow
Right.
brokers because it is such a small sandbox, as Dutch likes to say.
Mhm.
It is.
And
Don't
it's
piss
all
on my castle
so
to make yours look better.
it's all solely based upon relationships. So if we do have these clients,
Right.
who are we calling? We're calling the Brian Holtz. We're calling some
Right.
of these guys that we've forged relationships with for
Right.
years.
We're using our networking versus our tools.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
because our tools are broken
Yeah.
and frustrating
Well,
and
it's slow,
Right.
right?
They haven't caught up
stupid.
to the times.
Well, and shoot, you guys, and for me, on one hand, I'm super excited about it because it's like we've come light years. But 10 years ago, do you know what CoStar was like? It was not.
I can't
thing.
even imagine.
No, and before that, it was paper. You'd get a
Awesome.
paper sheet, and then it was like, here's the listings, and here's what you work with, and then you have to file them down. So again, the funny thing is, you were almost more network then because
Right. It was all network.
it was easier to just call them and be like,
Right.
hey, what do you got, rather than go through the
Right.
papers and try and find them.
So speaking of like new times, right, and how far we've come, what are some of our goals? What are some of your goals, Aaron, for like this year or the upcoming
Unicorns.
you
Are
know,
we going to find
bouncing
one?
blue balls?
And blue balls. I don't know where
Why
these
are
are going
they
to come
blue?
from, but I think I need both in my life.
So in the list of questions that I get as guests come on, my broker likes to really mess with me, and my
Aaron.
corporation, my blanket corporation, is called Bouncing Blue Balls, which I'm trademarking, by the way, because I'm convinced you're going to steal it.
That would be
And,
awesome. I'm going to do it right now. I'm making a note.
Let's hurry.
I'm going to get on this.
Um,
Just so you have to go through me.
Such
I'm
a
really
pain.
impressed with you that you even asked us here on April Fool's Day because
and talking about bouncing blue
well,
balls.
and because Aaron is the consummate prankster.
I'm
and
surprised he looks as
and-
normal as he does.
And-
Hey, I
and-
was going to call you and tell you I wasn't coming.
I hate you.
And I was like, that's too much
I was
on
so
our
sur-
first day.
I'm so surprised you didn't. To be
I-
quite honest,
I tried.
last year
I was going to do it twice. And I was like,
last year he told us we were leaving MHG.
I know. I remember that. I remember.
And everybody was freaking out and panicking. And he was talking about how much he didn't care for certain people and so on and so forth. He's like, we're just leaving. We're out. We're
Yeah.
so out.
It's like
And we were all
I
like sitting there
remember
with, it was our weekly meeting.
Which twin was gone?
Oh,
and we were.
Nick.
They were like
Nick.
They were on the
calling-
phone. They were on the phone. And
he was
his-
freaking out. I'm turning around. I come back to the office right
That's
now.
right.
no, he
I
was
gotta
in
figure this
He was
out.
in
He
Michigan,
was like
remember?
on vacation.
So so he was in Michigan driving up to Traverse City, and we're having this conversation because it's our weekly meeting and all the things. And Aaron's going on and on and on about how
he's just not happy,
no.
and so
And
we're
gonna
making
lose
our
some
own brokerage.
commissions.
our brokers
Right.
are
They're changing the rules on us, and so we're
everything
just,
is awful.
right. So we're just going to branch out and totally dead faced, and we're all like, "Wait, what?"
We're all sitting there with our jaws on the ground, watching him, going,
Such a
"What are you
jerk.
telling us right now, Aaron?" And then all of a sudden he's like, "Yay! April Fool's Day!" We're all like, "You suck."
Such a jerk.
See, I
Such
didn't
a
do
jerk.
it to you
So-
this morning.
so
Well, thanks. I really appreciate
I
that.
stopped myself twice.
So there's our unicorn.
Hey! I like the way you spun it. We got both.
It's a
Good.
shiny, sparkly, rainbow-colored
Yes.
unicorn.
Yeah, it is. And just to wrap up, so the name of my blanket corporation is Bouncing Blue Balls, because back in like 2000, early 2000s, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have memes, we had these like spam emails. Do you remember?
Yes.
And there was one that was like a woman and man's brain, and the man's brain was like a Pong game, and it was like one ball, and it just kind of went back and forth. And then there was the woman's brain. It was like 1,000 bouncing blue balls everywhere. And my husband sent it to me and said, "I finally understand you."
I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
And so
Bouncing
that's
Blue
where
Balls was born.
Bouncing Blue Balls. That's the name of my LLC, because that encompasses my brain,
Your brain,
children.
all the
Yes.
stuff you got going on up there. I thought it was totally something different
I'm
when I first met
sure
you.
you did.
And so it was great when you first explained it to me, but I still go back to my original
I know. He
thinking.
just uses it every opportunity he gets. So how can people get a hold of you, of us, of not Blue Balls,
Not
of
Blue
MHG
Balls.
Commercial?
MHG Commercial. We have a website, mhgcommercial.com.
Really
Looks
Thank you,
really,
Lish.
really
Thank you, Lish.
awesome. And you can find us all on there. It's got everyone's
We're about to have a real
contacts,
sexy team picture too.
pictures
We
on
just-
there, all
yeah.
sorts of stuff. And then all of our names at mhgcommercial.com for our emails. So
Mhm.
Carla at mhgcommercial.com, Audra at mhgcommercial.com, Aaron, AARON.
Well,
not the
there is an
female
ERI.
We do have another Aaron.
So you will contact somebody
You
no
will get
matter
someone.
what
So,
spelling
yeah,
you
just
do.
go
Just
with-
go for it.
Yeah. We're not gender specific here.
No, not
And then pretty much everyone's got an Instagram. We're working on getting those all squared away. But mine's at this. My Instagram is at This Is Dutcher.
Mm-hmm.
And then Carla's got one,
Mine is Investment Real Estate AZ,
which is awesome.
and all roads lead back to MHG Commercial.
And hers looks way, way better than mine.
Well, Lish is working on that for you.
Mine's just gonna look like me and my family and rodeos and trucks and kids.
20-year-olds on your couch eating all your food.
Eating all my
Yes.
stuff.
Well, thank you guys so much. Audra, how can we get a hold of you?
Audra at mhgcommercial.com.
Perfect.
And we're here to help. That's our big
Yes.
thing, guys. We're all just here to help. We want to work with you. We want to make your dreams come
Well, the
true.
ladies are. The
We-
guys not so much.
Well, because, mansplaining and all the things.
Yeah,
kidding.
if you
We
don't
all
want to
are.
be mansplained to, give Audra or I a call.
We're all
We will
here.
happily walk you through this.
Absolutely.
And to tie it in, full circle to your thing, I think it is that because we're different, we smash down those walls
Yeah, we do.
of commercial. We do it a little bit different. We approach it a little bit different. But if you're not an institutional investor, we're the best group for you.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Thank you for
it so
inviting me.
much.
Thank you, Carla.
You've been listening to Smashing Through Walls, the place for robust conversations about the building and blocks of Arizona commercial and real estate investment. Host Carla McGee is a commercial real estate broker with MHG Commercial, powered by My Home Group. The opinions expressed here are not necessarily the opinions of My Home Group and do not constitute any offer or advertisement of business or services. The real estate market is cyclical, and listeners assume all responsibility should any return on investment, tax consequences, credit effects, or financing terms not meet their expectations. Guests may not be qualified to provide financial, legal, or tax advice regarding a real estate transaction. Listeners are advised to obtain professional tax and legal advice and counsel.